The Indianapolis Colts make the obvious pick in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft by taking Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the night of the post first round draft here. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Terms and conditions apply. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com. And of course, I'm joined by our boots on the ground, Jake Arthur. He is over there at the Colts facility there. Was talking to Chris Ballard earlier about the Colts selection of Tyler Warren. So we'll talk about that a little bit here in just a second. But yeah, we have a fun show for you guys planned. We're reacting to the Tyler Warren selection. We're going to break down how he fits in this Colts offense. And then we're going to preview day 2 a little bit as well and talk about some players the Colts could go with. We are recording this while the first round's still happening. There's only like 5 picks still going on right now. So if we talk about a player who does get selected in round 1, we'll correct it here on the spot. But let's go into the Tyler Warren selection, Jake. And this was the selection where, I think Warren was being mocked to the Colts as early as October of this past year when mock drafts first started coming out. Warren was such an obvious fit when you look at the Colts depth chart, you look at who the most productive tight end in college football was last year. Warren just made so much sense. And he kind of was, the beginning to the end of draft season, he was the ideal target for the Colts, and they came to fruition here tonight. So Jake, what was your instant reaction? I guess when you saw Warren still falling down the board there to 14, and 2, when the Colts actually made the selection.
Well, my heart was up in my mouth because I had at 10, I went ahead and I finished my article that it was Tyler Warren at 14. And really, I was praying for myself that I wasn't going to have to rewrite something in 5 seconds. So, no, this is obviously best case scenario really for the Colts. I put out a little prediction, before the draft started. I was like, ideal scenario is Tyler Warren. The most realistic is probably Colston Loveland. But like Chris Ballard pointed out, Colston Loveland went ahead of him at 10 to the Bears. They already have Cole Kmet. So when you're talking about complementary pieces, that just made a lot more sense for Loveland to go ahead. But I mean, for the second time in 3 years now, one of the favorite players to go to the Colts that had been mocked for months withstands the entire pre-draft process. We've been talking about Tyler Warren to the Colts forever. It was just so obvious. And you know what? We can have nice things around here. We can. But it's very interesting for the Colts because I don't mean this, too snarkily, but the Colts tight end room has been so role-based for the last several years that it's hard to remember what it's like to have a tight end that does everything and doesn't leave the field. So it's like, okay, Tyler Warren's going to be on the field for first and second down or just third down or like what have you. This guy's going to come in on goal lines or short yardage, fourth down stuff. It's like, no, he'll be on the field the whole time. He's probably going to play like 70 snaps a game. So it's really nice to be reminded of what that's like. So it's like you have a Jack Doyle as a blocker, but like a way more effective pass catcher. Like, I encourage anyone to just go look at his stats and look at any of his tape if you haven't already. And you just see a tight end way more involved in an offense than you're really ever going to see. Like, yeah, he was like a wildcat quarterback as a tight end. You just don't do that. Like, go look at the USC tape. You're going to fall in love if you haven't already seen it. So, like, this is, again, best case scenario for the Colts. You look around at what else was there or maybe was going to be there. And at the end of the day, it was always Tyler Warren, and it actually came true.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to give the Colts credit here and would be happy for the Colts because this pick was so obvious, it made our life so much easier as reporters this whole draft season, because I wrote a film room up on Tyler Warren yesterday. We had multiple things already written about Tyler Warren that was ready to go. It made my first round so much easier this season compared to past first rounds, because this was the ideal pick all draft season. Now, there was some concern, like, would the Colts have to move up? Would he be there at 14? But everything kind of fell into place, and Warren fell to them there at 14. Just the perfect complement for what this offense is looking for. If you look at where the Colts offense has kind of struggled the last year, obviously quarterback is part of it, quarterback staying healthy. But when you're looking at the pass catching game, it's really the ability to create after the catch and force missed tackles after the catch. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but they were like second worst in the NFL in forcing missed tackles after the catch. They didn't create a ton of yards after the catch as well. So now you bring in a guy like Tyler Warren, who forced over 30 missed tackles after the catch last season, is a big threat in the screen game, and also a player who I think had like 6.6 yards after catch per reception this past season as well at Penn State. So he's just a guy who fits that need. He's an enforcer type player, a physical player. Like when you have guys like Josh Downs who are more of escape artists that can, slide down after the catch, and Pittman Jr. kind of takes a beating. I know he's a big physical guy, but he kind of takes a beating on the field. And Pierce is more of your vertical threat who doesn't create after the catch. Now you add this enforcer who can work in the screen game, be a leak player out of the backfield or off of play action. Can be a guy who's an RPO threat in the flats off of their RPO concepts and stuff. I think that this just adds that enforcer dynamic ability, and also it gives you a layup option that can turn 1-yard catches into 10-yard catches. So I think this is kind of everything the Colts were looking for as a pass catcher. In the run game, you kind of fit as well. I mean, very versatile blocker. When I was watching his college film the other day, getting ready for my final film room, he really reminded me of Jack Doyle as a blocker. Not in the sense where, like, Doyle was never a guy that you would put in line and say, hey, go block this 270-pound defensive end. That was never really Doyle. That's more of Mo Cox's as role as a blocker. But Doyle was this versatile guy who could be an insert blocker on inside runs and be like, a lead blocker at fullback at times, could be a guy who would be doing traps and whams on the interior. And that's what I see with Tyler Warren, just a versatile chess piece in the run blocking game. So you get this versatile player as a pass catcher, versatile player as a run blocker, and just fits what the Colts are looking for in terms of unique pieces on offense. There's still a lot of work to be done on offense, but Tyler Warren fits the biggest need. He was an entire offense in college, so he's capable of getting the ball in his hands and creating after the catch. And I think this was always the ideal fit for the Colts in round one. So much so where in our pre-draft show the other day, we really didn't entertain anyone else besides one of these top two tight ends. And we talked about Warren extensively on it just because it made so much sense for this team. So I'm happy for the Colts that he did slip to their pick at 14. They get the ideal fit that they were looking for. And yeah, it might have been a little too obvious throughout the whole draft season, but this is certainly their type of guy.
Yeah, and I know sometimes people are skeptical of like early tight ends because there was a while there where those guys struggled to at least have an instant impact or just be the players they were drafted to be. There's lots of things that Tyler does well that translate to the NFL. Number one, really strong hands. He wins contested catch balls. He's just got the strong, sure hands that translate. You don't, unless something mentally happens, you don't just like stop being able to catch the ball well. Blocking, he's a very mobile guy as well. He uses good technique, so that should pass the test. But then, like, his biggest calling card, and one thing that really compares him to like a Jeremy Shockey type, is he's just a bulldog with the ball in his hands. He has great contact balance. He keeps his feet moving, and it's like literally in his DNA to run angry with the ball. And so all of those things make him a very high floor, safe player. I mean, we'll see if he lives up to the billing of like, I mean, some people have compared him to like perennial all-pro and like almost legendary type tight ends. I mean, he's not the type of receiving prospect that Brock Bowers was, but I think he's probably a better blocker. So you put all these things together, and I think at minimum, the Colts just drafted a Pro Bowl tight end tonight.
I think he could certainly get there. I think there is some room to grow for him, but you're putting him in an environment that works with him. You're putting him with a creative play caller in Shane Steichen, and I think they're going to generate ways to get the ball in his hands and do what he does best. So I can't go as far as saying Pro Bowler or perennial All Pro or anything like that. So far, it's still early. He just got drafted, but I like his fit in this offense. I think when you look at where these top two tight ends went, Loveland is such a great fit in that Chicago Bears offense, and Warren is the ideal fit in the Colts offense. Like, this is what the Colts needed at tight end, the exact type of player they needed at tight end, and he fell into their laps there at 14. So, taking a tight end at 14, maybe not the best use of draft capital. And so, all the draft analysts saying all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the Colts got a good player that fits their system and fills a big need for them. I think at the end of the day, that's a win for this team. But coming up, we're going to continue this conversation on Tyler Warren. And I'm going to kind of dive in how, just the other day when I was watching Warren's film, it kind of hit me like a lightning strike in my head that like this was the ideal Chris Ballard player. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second.
Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all of my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. The cost of being alive is just truly exhausting. But that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app either. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so that you can stop just managing your money and actually start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. I've now cut back on things like gas for my car and paying my mortgage, all so that I can eat as much Chipotle as I want. But instead of juggling multiple apps, you can also use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. There is nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game, right, Pacers fans? Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually decrease as tip-off gets closer. Here's why I personally love using Gametime. I can save up to 60% when I'm buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, whatever. It's procrastination proof. I've used it several times over the last year and a half. I've gone to comedy shows. I've gone to live podcasts. I've gone to sporting events and concerts. I've used Gametime pretty much for everything it's worth, and I cannot recommend it enough. And plus, the all-in pricing means that there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is actually what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Alrighty, Locked On Colts Everydayers. We are back talking about the Colts selection of Tyler Warren in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. And it's kind of funny because I watched Tyler Warren early in the draft process, like we all did. He was a top 10, top 15 prospect, according to most, so I watched him as early as possible. And then I didn't really get back to his film again until I did this latest film room, which I posted on Horseshoe Huddle the day before the draft. So worked out for me, less work for me on draft night. It's great. But it kind of hit me, I think, when I was watching the Oregon film, Jake. And there was a couple play sequence where he had a great seal block with his behind in the hole, sealing off like a pass rusher coming up the middle to allow the running back to get a 6-yard gain. And then a couple plays later, he caught a screen pass, stiff-armed a guy, created after the catch, and created like a 15-yard gain. And it just really hit me at that point on that like 2-play sequence that everything the Colts have said this offseason about missing Jack Doyle, about having this need for just a tight end that can play all 3 downs, and just what he looked like on film, it hit me so hard that I was like, this is the type of guy that the Colts fall in love with. Like, this is very much their type of player. And I put it in my pre-draft notebook that I posted this morning that, like, I firmly believe, after watching film and after talking to a couple of people around the league about it, that this is probably the highest graded player the Colts have had on their board that they have drafted since Quentin Nelson. And you can add more context to that, Jake, because it sounded like that when Ballard had his presser after the pick. But I really think that they had a top 4 to 5 grade on Warren in this. I think he was a true blue chip prospect grade for them, just from everything that he looked like on film, from what I think his measurables would have been if he did test, and just the way that this Colts team values certain aspects of players. I firmly believe they had a top 4 or 5 grade on him in this draft class.
Yeah, so we did just get done talking to Chris here just a little bit ago, and he did say they had a clump of about 4 to 5 players. I believe this was when he was asked how many blue players they wound up having. Again, he hasn't directly answered that really throughout this week, but he said they had about 4 or 5 guys they really were targeting, and obviously Tyler was one of them. You've got to imagine like Loveland was probably one of the other ones as well. But then Chris said he hasn't felt that good pulling a player's card since Quentin Nelson. He said it was that easy of a decision. I imagine as soon as they saw that Miami did not take him, they're like, okay, we're on the clock. That's easy. Layup. And then just pulled the Tyler Warren card. No discussion needed. And so much, this just does so much for so many different things. And I immediately think of Shane Steichen. And it's like, 2 years with Steichen here in Indy, you really haven't seen the offensive like whiz kid he was brought in here to be. He hasn't had anything at the tight end position. How important is this for him? The quarterback position is what it is, and it's not just going to get magically great overnight, but you just helped whoever this quarterback is going to be immensely by giving them this safety valve. But not only that, like Jack Doyle could catch every pass all day long and get you to the chains and then really nothing more. He was not really an exotic pass catcher. Like he caught the ball, was tackled, and that was the end of it. You've now got Warren and Josh Downs that are basically yak kings. They're going to get you the short to intermediate stuff, and they're going to get you 5 more yards out of it, So I think this is going to be huge for the rhythm of the Colts offense. I think it'll be huge for what Shane feels confident in calling. Again, the big but and what if is the quarterback position. Like, just don't screw this up, guys. Like, just take the layups because you got a couple of guys who are going to be great under the rim, basically, and Downs and Warren. So I'm pretty pumped for what this offense can look like and perhaps have some rhythm in the passing game for the first time since, Phillip Rivers?
Well, let's not get too crazy here, Jake. I think that might be a little.
I love how the baseline for getting too crazy is asking for rhythm in the passing game. That's how far we've fallen.
When you invoke the name of Phillip Rivers talking about Colts offense, that's like the highest tier.
I'm not trying to compare these guys at all. I'm saying, wouldn't it be nice if there was some rhythm like when Phil was here?
Yeah, right. I just think the interesting part of all this, and again, maybe it's just from that revelation I had watched. I mean, it's not a revelation. Everyone's been mocking Warren to the Colts. So I'm just saying when I was watching him, it was just how important it is for the Colts to have a player in college be the entire thing that an offense was relying on, or be exactly what a team was relying on. I think aside from the AD Mitchell pick last year, every pass catcher that Chris Ballard has taken has been a player who's been like a 30% target share guy in their offense. And you look at Tyler Warren last year, it's much, much higher than that. He was their entire offense. And, there's an immense value in that. I mean, a really cool connection that has been made recently and not really a hidden one is that the Penn State offensive coordinator this past year came from Kansas, right? So Kansas, one of the most unique, diverse offenses. He brings that to Penn State. And basically when he gets to Penn State, he says, I have one weapon on this team, and he runs that weapon into the ground. Tyler Warren was carrying that Penn State offense to the college football playoff this past season. And another cool connection with that is, who knows that Kansas offensive coordinator who went to Penn State, Chris Ballard's kid, and Chris Ballard, who, Chris Ballard's kid played at Kansas or plays at Kansas right now. So a little bit of a connection there. But I do think that was a big part of this selection, though, was the Colts looking at all the tight ends in this class and looking at, like, who is a guy that you can run your offense through and when you need it. And Warren was just a ball winner last year that Penn State was so comfortable just putting the ball in his hands and letting him go to work. I'm not saying it was always perfect or always pretty or even the way you want to run an NFL team, but to show that you're capable of doing something so darn unique, averaging almost 10 yards a carry on the ground, throwing some passes last year while also being a 1,200-yard receiver when every team knows you're getting the ball. I think that is immensely valuable. So again, we can talk analyst-wise all night long about how taking a tight end at 14 might be a reach and you're reaching for need, or even me personally not being like sky high on Warren in this class. I still really liked Warren, but not being like a top tier prospect. At the end of the day, this is a player who makes the Colts better. He's a versatile player, a unicorn in a lot of aspects of what he does on offense, and he fits a major need for this team. So yeah, like I'm not going to sit here and say home run, perfect pick, greatest player ever, but I think this is a guy who makes the Colts much better, and I think he fits exactly what this team wants. So I call this a great pick. I think this is a really good pick for the team. I'm glad they didn't have to move up for him either. I'm glad they stayed pat and they were able to get their guy. And I think ultimately he makes the Colts better next season and for the foreseeable future. So very good pick by the Colts. Really like seeing Tyler Warren in this team. I think he's a great fit. And I'm very happy with day one. But coming up, guys, we have to preview day two because we won't really get a chance tomorrow. So we're going to talk about some day two options and objectives that the Colts really need to hit once we get into the Friday portion of the draft.
As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner who works just as hard as you do. And that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can actually help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. It's no wonder 72% of small businesses say that LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, Locked On Colts everydayers, we are back talking Indianapolis Colts draft. We were talking about day two preview, what we expect to happen come Friday. I mean, some of you guys are probably listening to this on Friday since it's so late at night right now. But Jake, I've been pounding the table the last couple of days saying, like, look, the Colts are taking a tight end round one. I just can't see another avenue for this team in round one. But when they take that tight end that early, it's going to be a day two trenches kind of day for the Colts. It's going to be trenches. They still need a right guard. They only have one defensive end rostered after 2025 as of right now, and that's Laiatu Latu. And their starting defensive tackles are both hitting their age 31 season coming up. The Colts need help on both sides of the ball in the trenches. So for me personally, and just knowing Chris Ballard, I fully expect both the picks on day two, if there's only two picks on day two, to be in the trenches.
Oh, he's trading back. 45 is not where they're picking.
No.
They're not going to move up, but that pick is going to rest somewhere around 50 to 53. I would be shocked. I think I looked today. I think second round is easily the most picks that Chris Ballard has made. Like that's the most that he has stockpiled throughout his career here in Indy. And there's just no reason not to. Like they are the clump of players they loved is presumably gone by now, I would imagine. So what is the point in not trading back a little bit? Obviously, you have to have a trade partner that wants to move a little bit, but no, they're going to stockpile some stuff. Definitely, I would look at right guard, a swing tackle option, which maybe is not as big of a priority, but definitely the right guard, edge and defensive tackle. And if they would like to bring me Carson Schwessinger as well, I'd be cool with it.
Yeah, I think right guard is certainly going to be addressed on day two because they don't even have a starter at right guard right now with how they've talked about Mac Gonsalves probably being a right tackle still next season. So I think right guard is almost a lock to be on day two. But that other pick, whether it's going to be in round two or round three, I do think that is a little up in the air. Again, it could be a defensive tackle. It could be a defensive end. That's more of what I expect. But I do think, like you mentioned, Carson Schlesinger, if he's still on the board, we're still recording this when the first round's going on, which is risky on our part, but Jake needs to get some sleep at some point. I think Jahad Campbell's currently still on the board, so if they're okay with the injury, maybe they could get him on day 2. I know, gosh, if they got Jahad Campbell and Tyler Warren, I couldn't imagine.
Wait, Campbell is still out there?
Yeah, the shoulder and the knee.
Move up. I don't care. He can have my shoulder and my knee. Get up.
No, that would make him worse, Jake. That would make him worse if he had your shoulder and your knee.
All right, so that's rude. Let's move on.
But yeah, I think certainly linebacker could be in play. We could even go to round 3 and talk Shmuel Mondon Jr. Like, I think linebacker could be in play. And also if they go away from maybe the defensive trench, because again, I think they're going to take a guard at some point. If they go away from the defensive trench, could they surprise and go corner maybe? Because they just haven't really given, like, I'm just curious to see if they grab, if they grab a corner that fits more of Lou Anarumo. Because I think,
there's a bunch out there that, I mean, I haven't seen in the last few picks who's out there, but there's a bunch of corners out there that still make a lot of sense.
Right. Like a player like Darian Porter is such a good combination of Ballard and Lou Anarumo that I wonder if they consider it. I don't think they do, but I wonder if that's one they consider. But again, I think it's going to be trenches. I mean, if we're looking just at guard, I think Tate Ratledge is going to be very high on their board. I think we're looking at Wyatt Milam is going to be high on their board. Jonas Savanai, Savanea, I think is how you say his name.
Donovan Jackson, if he's still out there.
No, he went to the Vikings. Donovan Jackson. Yeah. But yeah, there's plenty of guys that fit them. Emory Jones is another guy who fits. I think Miles Frazier in round 3. Look at that jinx right there. I think Miles Frazier is a guy in round 3 who fits. So yeah, there's a lot of guards I think they're going to target. I think just whatever the other pick's going to be on day 2 is more of the question mark right now.
Yeah, I think there's definitely still plenty of edge help out there. I mean, surely Ezraku's going to be gone by the time they're up, but there's still some guys out there. Jordan Birch, JT Tuamolo. Those are just a couple guys that really stand out to me that I would target if I were them. Again, I have to look at who's still out there, but those guys I imagine will still be there at 45 or 50-ish, like I mentioned.
Yeah, Landon Jackson, Ashton Gillette. I think those are types that they would like as well.
D-tackle also. There should be plenty of guys. Darius Alexander, I think we're starting to kind of get into his range as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Alexander's is what they're looking for exactly, but I think like a Joshua Farmer would be an interesting one. I think Farmer's a guy that the NFL is a little bit higher on than most analysts are, so I think the Colts might have to take him at like 45 if they like him. But I do think that he could fit with his athletic upside and just be that backup one tech that the Colts have been looking for a long time behind Grover Stewart. I think they could go DT, defensive end, guard. Corner's kind of cutesy to throw in there. We could see if they go corner. And then maybe safety, but
I was just about to say, not too long ago we were talking about like a Lathan Ransom in round 3 could be sneaky for them. Yeah. Again, it's all about the player. Like, yes, the Colts have their starters at safety, but if there's someone out there who they're like, they offer such a good versatility or like a specific trait that Anarumo could play 3 safeties. Like, we know the guy is going to use a bunch of different sub packages, and he's not going to shy away from, if he's got multiple guys that can contribute on a certain package, like, he's going to do it. Like,
I'm very curious to see what they do in the secondary in this draft, because Ballard always takes a corner at some point in every draft. Like, he basically does it every year.
It's so where he has drafted the most.
Right. Not the best, but the most he has drafted. So we will see if where they add that corner. I don't think it'll be day 2, but we'll see there. Before we get out of here, though, Jake, let's call our shot, because we technically both got it wrong in round 1, because our final mocks had Colston Loveland. Technically, we had mocks at some point.
That was assuming, though, that Warren was off the board.
We each had mocks at some point that had Tyler Warren going to the Colts, so that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But who are you calling here on day 2? I'll give you the wide range of anything on day 2 here. You could trade back, trade up, take whoever at your 2 picks. Real quick, though, who do you got here with the Colts day 2?
Well, I mean, I do think they'll trade back at some point, but I'd rather project a player here. Landon Jackson makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I think Landon Jackson in round 2. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
He's got that inside out versatility, but he is height, weight, speed. Like, he is everything that a Chris Ballard edge has been, except he has college production, which has been a rarity. Like, he is a traitsy dude, but he's not some raw ball of clay. Like, he actually has put good tape on there and has got in the backfield and made plays. Like,
yeah.
So he differs from the classic Ballard edge in that way, is that he's actually, this is going to sound rude, he's actually already good.
Yeah.
Which is a plus. I think that's a huge plus.
That is a good plus. You want your players to be good, like the Colts got with their first round pick, and Tyler Warren, already a pretty good player. Let's just lean into the fun here. Let's say they get Schlesinger in round 2, baby, with their 45 pick, or maybe a slight trade up. And let's say in round 3 they actually anger some people and they take like a Miles Frazier, who everyone's like, oh, PFF has him in round 5. What are you doing? But I think the Colts are going to be very high on Miles Frazier. But let's see what the Colts do on day 2. We're riding this high into Friday. Everyone, Colts end up with Tyler Warren. Oh, what's up?
Is Mason Taylor still on the board? I will get weird and double dip. I don't care. If he's still out there, I've seen worse things happen.
All right, guys. Jake is past his bedtime and he's going a little crazy right now. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in to this late night episode of Locked On Colts. We are celebrating the Tyler Warren selection. Colts getting a versatile player to add to their offense. And they finally get a tight end who can hopefully hit 500 yards receiving for the first time since 2018. We do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. Now, if your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. The draft is here, and they got you covered with the rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening.